Most celebrities spend their whole career managing a flawless image. Anne Hathaway, she spent hers saying exactly what she thinks, admitting exactly what she got wrong, even when it costs her. From calling her own 2011 Oscars hosting gig a flat-out flop, to joking about her own face 15 years later, these are 36 moments that prove no celebrity has zero filter quite like her. Not every celebrity is willing to admit their own failure, especially one that played out in front of hundreds of millions of viewers. In 2011, Anne Hathaway co-hosted the Oscars with James Franco, a night quickly labeled one of the worst broadcasts in the show's history. Years later, asked about it on Watch What Happens Live, she skipped the spin entirely. "We sucked" on The Tonight Show. She went further and called it the single most embarrassing moment of her career.
Here you are hosting the Oscars in 2011 with James Franco. We
sucked.
We sucked.
That bluntness doesn't stop at looking back on a past event. Sometimes it shows up in how she judges herself in real time. At one Golden Globe ceremony, Anne Hathaway fumbled the end of her speech and forgot to thank Susan Beimel, her manager of many years. Recounting it to Harper's Bazaar, she called it flatly one of my most regretted life moments, not softening it at all for a slip most viewers had forgotten within the week.
Stephen Huvane, Jason Sloan, and special contributions by Frank Salvaggi and Kerry Wagner.
Right in the middle of that backlash, the way she handled one interview became its own proof that she wasn't performing likability for anyone. In 2012, when journalist Kirsty Flahr suggested singing the answers, Hugh Jackman and Eddie Redmayne happily agreed, but Anne flatly declined. "I won't be doing that, but you're more than welcome to sing." The exchange turned curt. The clip sat forgotten for over a decade until it resurfaced in 2024, and Anne chose to send a personal apology email that invited Kirsty to interview her again in 2025.
So I was going to ask you to do the first question in singing. Can I sing it to you and you can sing back the answer?
Well, I won't be doing that, but you're more than welcome to sing.
She was just being like so dismissive of me. Do you feel that love was more passionate back then? Or people would sacrifice more for love than we do today?
No.
Not every one of her awkward interview moments ends with an apology. Sometimes she simply says no, flatly, and lets it stand. At LA's 2022 Women in Hollywood event, when a reporter pushed for details of a private conversation with Anna Wintour, Anne laughed and shot back. "Why would I tell you?" The clip later drew accusations of rudeness, though many fans defended her, pointing out she was well within her right to keep a privite conversation private.
Have you guys ever spoken about the movie? Yes.
And what has she shared?
Why would I tell you? Because I'm a fan and I need to know.
Yes, I know, but you weren't there.
Her directness doesn't stop at declining to answer. Once, it turned into an outright pushback against a question she could easily have dodged. After an upskirt photo of her was sold to tabloids in 2012, Matt Lauer asked if there were any lessons learned. Well, Anne answered directly on Today. "I was very sad that we live in an age when someone takes a picture of another person in a vulnerable moment and rather than delete it and do the decent thing, sells it." She placed the fault exactly where it belonged, not on herself.
On two accounts. One was that I was very sad that we live in an age when someone takes a picture of another person in a vulnerable moment and rather than delete it and do the decent thing, sells it. And I'm sorry that we live in a culture.
And when it comes to who actually stood by her during the hardest stretch, Anne doesn't hesitate to name names. In a 2024 Vanity Fair interview, Anne said plainly that director Christopher Nolan was the one person who didn't care about her toxic online image and cast her in Interstellar anyway. She called him an angel. "I had an angel in Christopher Nolan who did not care about that and gave me one of the most beautiful roles I've had in one of the best films that I've been a part of." That honesty goes further than owning mistakes or defending herself publicly. It reaches into the most private parts of her life. In early 2019, live on The Ellen DeGeneres Show, Anne announced she was giving up drinking, with a simple reason. "I'm going to stop drinking while my son's living in my house." She described one hungover school run as the final straw. Alcohol, she said, had been wallowing fuel. By 2024, she shared she'd passed 5 years sober, calling it a milestone worth marking.
I
For 18 years. I'm gonna stop drinking while my son's living in my house, just because I don't totally love the way I do it, and he's getting to an age where he really does need me all the time in the mornings.
Wow.
Yeah. I did one school run one day where I dropped him off at school. I wasn't driving, but I was hungover, and that was enough for me. I didn't love that one.
Yeah.
Before finding that peace, Anne has also been candid about going through the exact opposite for years. She told people, "I did everything so wrong for so long." Early in her career, she was so afraid of messing up that she missed out on beautiful moments from sheer stress, admitting she was smoking, just smoking my nerves away, and once had a panic attack alone on set that she didn't tell anyone about, afraid of keeping the crew waiting.
First time, like the first go round, I was in a different place, and I didn't know how to like step outside of being stressed or worried or nervous or any of those things, and so
that same honesty sometimes turns inward when she openly admits to a bias she once carried herself. Working with female director Lone Scherfig on One Day forced Anne to confront an uncomfortable truth about herself. She realized she'd carried her own internalized bias about women in directing roles. Rather than hide it, she chose to admit it publicly in an interview.
It's hard to admit, isn't it?
It's so hard to admit, and I hope people understand that it's hard to admit. I'm so scared that I treated her with internalized misogyny.
Sometimes the cost of that honesty runs even deeper, especially when it touches losses most people choose to keep private. Anne told Vanity Fair her path to pregnancy wasn't a straight line. She revealed a miscarriage while playing a pregnant woman during a 6-week run of Grounded. Announcing her next pregnancy, she deliberately acknowledged people who'd been through infertility and conception hell, aware her happy news could make someone else feel more alone. That same honesty about motherhood didn't stop at pregnancy. It showed up right on set, in the middle of a packed shooting schedule. While filming Ocean's 8, Anne was still breastfeeding and nervous about how the cast would react to her needing pumping breaks. She recalled telling her co-stars, "I'm sorry, I should have pumped an hour ago," and the group immediately closed ranks around her, telling the crew, "We need a break. Annie needs to go do this." With that same honesty, Anne hasn't hidden how she really feels about balancing work and motherhood either. She told Harper's Bazaar she feels very defeated by the idea of perfect balance. Before kids, her focus could be uninterrupted. Now, everything has constant ebbs and flows. She's also spoken bluntly against mum-shaming, calling for people to stop judging each other and instead look at the institutions that aren't actually supporting mothers.
The deeper into the issue of paid parental leave I go, the clearer I see the connection between persisting barriers to women's full equality and empowerment.
That same honesty extends to how Anne talks about her own body after having kids, a topic plenty of stars choose to dodge. "I didn't snap back. I want to be very, very clear about that," she shared, noting it took her second pregnancy the full 3 years to recover. Instead of chasing the pressure to bounce back instantly, she said, "Let your body be a body. There's nowhere to get to. It's just now." That honesty doesn't stop at her postpartum body, it extends to how Anne talks about aging and her own face more broadly. Asked how she'd respond to "You look so good for your age," she answered plainly, "I don't think about age. To me, aging is another word for living." To In Style, she was just as direct about her face. "I have very large features on a very small head, but I'm not going to beat myself up. I look like myself."
I don't think about age.
I don't. Tell me.
To me, aging is another word for living.
Beyond her personal life, that same candor shows up in how she talks about what the job itself has cost her. To play the starving Fantine, Anne ate just 2 squares of dried oatmeal a day, living on roughly 500 calories. "I had to be obsessive about it," she admitted. But unlike stars who only showcase results, she spelled out the rest plainly. "That weight loss was not a long-term good thing for my health, and it took a really long time to come back from it."
But that weight loss was not a long-term good thing for my health.
The brutal diet wasn't the only thing she was willing to sacrifice for this role. One other decision scared her far more. Anne has called cutting her hair short on the Les Miserables set the scariest moment of her career. "Scarier," she said, "than hosting the Oscars or wearing the Catwoman suit." She cried when she felt how short it had gotten, but let the crew go through with it anyway, wanting to authentically capture her character's transformation.
Yes, it was.
Yes!
It was. That was my idea.
That's a bold and intimate choice.
It was a very bold and a very intimate choice.
And right after that haircut scene, Anne faced a different kind of test. This time, not about her looks, but about her own voice. The I Dreamed a Dream scene was recorded live, with only a piano feeding through her earpiece. After 2 takes that didn't feel right, on the 3rd she told herself, "If you do not do this in this moment, you have no right to call yourself an actor. Put aside all that bullshit and just do your job." That was the take that made the film.
I dreamed a dream in time gone by.
From her very first brush with the industry's biggest names, Anne hasn't been shy about admitting her own awkwardness either. She told The Late Show that the first time she sat alone with Meryl Streep on the Devil Wears Prada set, she tried to seem cultured by recommending a Nick Drake album and a Jeffrey Eugenides novel. Meryl gently pushed back, saying she believed Stephen Colbert, not Jon Stewart, whom Anne had just mentioned, was the one who'd save America.
Amazing. I'm like, thank you so much. My dress just broke. And I've never actually seen someone turn green before.
That candor isn't limited to awkward stories either. Sometimes Anne openly confesses to on-set pranks she probably shouldn't have pulled. Filming One Day in Scotland, Anne confessed to Matt Lauer that she'd mooned co-star Jim Sturgis right in front of an apartment building. It was a little naive, she admitted, saying she'd decided to be a little naughty and go for it, and that it blew right up in my face when an older man watching gave Sturgis a thumbs up. That same co-star later became the subject of another completely unscripted performance from Anne, this time live on Jimmy Kimmel. Promoting Serenity, Anne did an impression of Matthew McConaughey's accent and mannerisms on Jimmy Kimmel, live so accurate that Kimmel said it felt like being in a car with the real McConaughey. She joked that his famous "all right, all right, all right" was strictly rookie level compared to what she'd picked up after months of filming together.
In return, I will give you $10 million cash.
Not only is Anne good at impressions, she's also happy to let friends roast her live on air, and seems to genuinely enjoy it. On an episode of The Graham Norton Show marking International Women's Day, Rebel Wilson, her co-star from The Hustle, repeatedly roasted Anne right in front of the studio audience. And rather than bristling, Anne laughed it off and traded jabs right back, completely unguarded.
I mean, I don't know, it's just something about your sincerity or something.
You know what? I'm not even going to argue with it. I know. It's true. My favorite was when you called me an animatronic cock tease.
Yeah, because on that day you really look like it.
That same ease sometimes turns into a deliberate joke. Anne engineers herself with a genuinely serious point hiding underneath.
There's a little secondhand bookstore, and I found a book in there by this guy who used to be really big called Dr. Q, and he wrote a book called Citrus Healing. And it was all the ways that you can incorporate citrus into your life to kind of like raise your health, you know, aromatherapy, and you can use the peels for cleaning products. And one of the things was how to incorporate citrus into your meditation practice. And it was called Clementine.
Live on The Ellen Show, Anne invented a wellness trend called citrus healing, spinning a completely fabricated story about meeting hippies in California, then walking the whole studio through it. Only at the end did she reveal it was a bit, with a clear point: do not put something in your mouth just because a celebrity tells you to.
I already put mine.
You're all breathing in?
Wait, I have to put mine back together. I took it apart.
If you took yours apart, don't worry, it still works. You just hold it together.
Okay.
Okay, so breathe in.
All right.
Okay, and then breathe out. Still doing it. The takeaway of this is do not put something in your mouth just because a celebrity tells you to.
But not all of Anne's bluntness is planned like that joke was. Sometimes it just slips out, live, mid-broadcast. On The Tonight Show, promoting the idea of you, mid-conversation about co-star Nicholas Galitzine, Anne suddenly asked the audience, "Has anybody here read the book?" Not a single hand went up. Jimmy Fallon immediately joked about it, leaving Anne visibly caught off guard. She later poked fun at herself on Instagram. Audience said, "Hold my book."
I actually burst out laughing when he walked in because... has anybody here read the book?
No, we don't read.
Well, you should.
We don't read. This is the Tonight Show. Yeah, you want to go. You want to go over to Stephen. You want to go to Stephen Colbert if you want to get people that read books.
Sometimes it's her own wardrobe that forces that same no-hiding instinct into the open, right on camera. In 2019, right before her interview with Stephen Colbert on The Late Show, Anne discovered her pants had split while still in the car. Instead of delaying, she got out with one hand on her hip and her legs crossed to cover the rip, then recounted the entire mishap on air with Colbert, humour intact, while waiting for her sister to bring a replacement outfit.
Now you might notice I'm standing like this. And the reason I'm standing like that is because I looked down in the car and my pants had split.
That wasn't the only time a wardrobe incident forced Anne to handle things in public rather than backstage. While filming The Devil Wears Prada 2, the heel of Anne's shoe snapped and she fell backward onto the steps, hair flying. She got up immediately, yelling, "I'm fine!" and raised her arms like a gymnast finishing a routine, later comparing her own tumble to Mia Thermopolis' fall on the bleachers in The Princess Diaries.
Oh, wow!
Not every one of Anne's wardrobe moments was an accident. Once, she was the one who created the controversial moment herself. Before the 2013 Oscars, Anne switched dresses last minute after another star chose a similar Valentino. She later told Harper's Bazaar, with humour, "I didn't have a friggin' dress," and admitted that checking the mirror beforehand, she told her husband bluntly, "It looks like my nipples are hard." The resulting photos made headlines everywhere, but she chose to retell it with humour rather than avoid it. That same directness carries into how Anne talks about romance too, even when the topic is stirring controversy around the very film she's in. With The Idea of You, a romance built around a wide age gap, Anne didn't dodge the controversy, telling Today plainly, "It's kind of fun to be in a film where we talk about it, where we don't dance around it." On turning 40, she was just as direct. It's okay if 40 is old, it's okay if 40 isn't old, because it's personal. That same honesty is also what led Anne to her current marriage, a story she's told without any polish. Meeting Adam Schulman in 2008, Anne was upfront with him about the trust issues left by her previous relationship, admitting, "I believe, because I need to believe, that what just happened to me was the exception and not the rule." On the engagement, she jokes, "Adam totally ruined my plan. I was really actually looking forward to a little alone time, and then I fell in love like a fool." And that same directness is still fully intact today, even when it touches the one subject most stars tiptoe around, her own appearance at the very event that started all of this 15 years earlier. At the 2026 Oscars, Anne showed up with an unusually taut, youthful look, instantly sparking cosmetic surgery speculation. Rather than deny it, she joked about it directly in a backstage video, pretending to reprise her role as the Grand High Witch from The Witches. The real trick, per her hairstylist, was just a couple of small braids tucked behind her ears. No surgery, no dodging, just a funny, direct answer, exactly how she's answered everything for 15 years since this very stage. But that honesty doesn't always wait until after the fact. Once, it happened right on stage, in the very moment she was accepting the biggest award of her career. Winning the 2013 Oscar for Fantine, Anne Hathaway later admitted to The Guardian that she felt very uncomfortable and had kind of lost my mind making Les Miserables and hadn't fully recovered from it yet. She had to stand there and perform a happiness she didn't actually feel, later admitting, "I tried to pretend that I was happy and I got called out on it, big time." That same honesty sometimes cost her when the public read her sincerity in a completely different way. Her emotional Oscar line, "It Came True," sparked a wave of online Hatha-hate, with people calling her fake. She later admitted a self-deprecating habit she'd had since age 7, amplified by the internet, made everything hit harder, and said plainly that many producers at the time wouldn't give me roles because they were so concerned about how toxic my identity had become online. That same directness extends to how she talks about the industry that once treated her unfairly. Anne told Porter magazine that even as a child actor, she was warned her career would fall off a cliff at 35, something she said a lot of women in the industry face. Rather than dodging the uncomfortable topic, she said it plainly, "There's so much to be proud of, and there's so much to fix." From a widely panned hosting night to a forgotten thank you, a curt interview, a panic attack she hid from everyone on set, a pair of pants splitting right before airtime, And a joke about her own face 15 years later, Anne Hathaway has never tried to play the role of a flawless star. She has simply said it, done it, and admitted it exactly as it happened, even when that made her look awkward, hurt, or wrong. And maybe that's exactly why, without any filter left to hide behind, audiences eventually realized that was never her weakness. It was always the thing that made it impossible to look away.